Have you ever been sitting in church and listening to the pastor maybe preach his sermon, and you hear him use a word that you've heard him use before, and you've heard it many times in church, but you don't know exactly what it means? You might be able to get an idea of what it means from the context in which he's using it, but it's just a word that you've never actually got the definition for, or maybe you learned one time long ago, but you kind of forgot since then. It's not a word that you hear outside of the church. You only really hear it in church. This might be a word that we'd call a church word. They are useful words to talk about the glorious riches of God's word, but they're words that we don't use outside of church. And so it's good for us to understand them, but sometimes we can feel out of the loop if we don't understand the concept of this church word. And so for the next couple of weeks, we're going to go through a few church words and talk about what they mean so that we can get more out of the church. And when we hear that word used, we know exactly what that means. So the first word we're going to talk about is justification. Now you might hear this in a different form. Justification is the big one. You might hear somebody say justify, or he has been justified. These are all similar words here. It's a legal term. It's a legal term that means declare not guilty. And so if you have been justified, you have been declared not guilty. Justification then would be the process of declaring you not guilty. And so this word describes what Jesus did for us. He declares us not guilty. We have been justified because of what Jesus did for us. And so one of the main passages that we go to teach about justification and what this actually means is from Paul's letter to the Corinthians, his second letter, 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 21, which says, God made him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. So God made Jesus sin for us so that we might be the righteousness of God. This is the great exchange that happened on the cross. We gave Jesus our sin, and he gave us his righteousness. And when this great exchange happened, because we have been made righteous, we have been declared not guilty before God, because Jesus took our punishment. He took our guilt, and he gave to us his righteousness. So now a good thing to ask then is who did he do this for? Well, there's a couple passages we can look at to do that. One is one that you maybe know very well, John 3:16. It says, for God so loved the world that he gave his one and only son. So it was the love for the world that includes everybody that God sent his son to die on the cross. So God sent his son to die on the cross for the sins of the entire world, which means that his justifying work was for the entire world. Another place where it says this is Romans chapter 5, verses 18 and 19. Consequently, just as the result of one trespass was condemnation for all men, so also the result of one act of righteousness was justification that brings life for all men. For just as through the disobedience of the one man the many were made sinners, so also through the obedience of one man the many will be made righteous. In this section, Paul is comparing Adam and Jesus. Just as Adam brought sin to the entire world through his sin, so Jesus brought justification to the whole world through what he did on the cross for the whole world. That Jesus' sacrifice was good for everyone, so that everyone everyone might be saved. We are connected to this salvation through faith, but that does not negate Jesus' sacrifice. Jesus died on the cross for the sins of all people. We call this universal, objective justification. Universal, he died for the sins of the whole world. Objective, it's a fact, you can't change it. And justification, we have been declared not guilty before God. This is a wonderful concept that we learn from the Bible and that we talk about in church. So now when you hear the word justification or justify or justified, you will know that this means that you have been declared not guilty, and you will know that it's for you because Jesus died for the sins of the entire world. No one was excluded, not even you. May this word be a comfort to you. May this teaching be a comfort to you as you uncover it more and more in the Bible.